Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Sugar Plum and Myrrh from Kringle Candle. I had planned to review this for you guys last week. I apologize, I'm way off track right now. I had posted an update, but for those who don't know, my son was very sick last week. He had pneumonia, and so it kind of threw our whole household for a loop. He's doing much better now, thankfully, and I'm trying to get back on track, but I do feel like I have a touch of something going on. So I apologize if my voice is a little bit off or if I have to like pause this and come back in. I'm trying my best to kind of, I've got my tea here and keeping it going, because in case this gets any worse or anybody else in my family starts next, I wanted to try to make use of today and get at least one review done for you guys. So thank you for bearing with me. You know, my mom duties will always come first, and I'm sure you guys understand that, but I, again, appreciate your patience. I have a lot of candles I still need to review for you, so, you know, I'm doing the best I can. The nice thing about having that little bit of downtime last week was I was able to get a lot of burn time in, so I do have several that are pretty much ready to go now. It's just a matter of getting them out and recorded, so thank you for bearing with me. Getting back on track today for Sugar Plum and Myrrh. This is one of Kringle's new core fragrances this year for holiday. So right now I believe it's available in all formats, from the 2-wick large jars you see here to medium, 3-wick, daylight, wax melts, and most recently they released this fragrance in a 4-wick as well. So if you are interested in this one, there are lots of options out there for you. This candle here was gifted to me for my review. I have been reviewing the whole holiday lineup here that was gifted to me from Kringle this year as an ambassador. And I've been giving you my honest thoughts along the way, and this will be no different. So thank you guys for giving me that chance. And thank you guys to anyone who's been using my code recently. I really appreciate that. For those who don't know, I have an ambassador or affiliate discount code that you're welcome to use. Simply Scented at checkout will give you 15% off, and I do make a small commission off of that. So just, you know, in full disclosure that you're aware, and I will always have that in the description of this video here, my relationship and the code. And again, thank you to anyone who's been using it. I've just really put everything that I do get in commission right back into this channel, into reviews, new products coming out. So I really appreciate that support. But getting back on track here today with this review, again, I apologize. For Sugar Plum and Myrrh, what I'll do is read you Kringle's description, and then I will get into their scent notes, and then we'll talk about what my thoughts were on this one. So Kringle describes this fragrance as a sweet halo of shimmering red raspberry, nectarous plum, and tart white currant, blended with intoxicating warm lemon tea and gently sugared myrrh. We have top notes of berry and tea leaves, mid notes of citrus and plum, and base notes of tonka bean and amber. All right, guys, so, you know, we have a sort of traditional element here with the Sugar Plum and Myrrh, but they're taking that and using it in, I feel like, a less traditional way. It's not the typical sugar plum scent that I think of when I think of holiday fragrance. So for me, it doesn't really fit that whole traditionalist classic Christmas feel. But if you have a more modern, a more contemporary, more in keeping with the label here on this picture, if that more like sort of upscale Christmas aesthetic is your vibe, then this might fit that much better. Because even for me, even though it's not in my real wheelhouse of holiday fragrances, it doesn't feel wildly inappropriate. It's just not like my traditional sort of scent, if that makes sense. And for me here, we have a sort of pretty, delicate, slightly feminine leaning fragrance. It's not perfumey to me, but it does feel like you maybe could wear it. It could be like a wearable type of fragrance. And for me, usually that's like a very big turnoff for me when it comes to home fragrance. I have a hard time crossing that border of, you know, wearable versus home fragrance. Usually I like to keep it separate, but the piece that kind of makes this okay for me is that there's some sort of cozy aspect to it that still makes it feel appropriate for in the home. So when we break down this fragrance, for me, I get a lot of the fruitiness first and foremost. We're talking that red raspberry mixed with the plum in sort of a 50-50 kind of complementary capacity here. Usually when I think of plum this time of year, I'm thinking very deep, dark plum. And this, while it's juicy, it's a slightly sweet plum. It doesn't veer too dark, dark to my nose, not too deep of a plum fragrance. And I think the reason for that is the addition of that raspberry, which sort of brightens it up a little bit. And then when you take that slight tartness of the currant, you know, it adds a little bit of a contrast to the sweetness of the fruit. It makes it very, very bright, very cheerful fruit. And for me, when they say shimmering red raspberry, that shimmering is actually a really good adjective. It does have like this, like, sort of luminous quality to that red raspberry note where it has a little bit of that pop. And then you sort of add in, this is where I feel like the fragrance is pretty unique, is that element of the tea leaves. So they talk about a citrus note here, and for me, you know, it's not distinctly lemon tea like they say, but if you're a tea drinker and you've had Earl Grey tea, that is a black tea leaf with an infusion of, I think it's bergamot, which for me, this is giving me that sort of vague citrus quality to it, more in keeping with a bergamot than a straight lemon like they say. And if you think of the leaves themselves, how they have that little bit of an earthy quality to it, that's what I'm getting here. That Earl Grey tea leaves, not steeped, not brewed tea, you know, not in the liquid form, but just that fresh tea leaf sort of fragrance to it, mixed in with that raspberry, and that kind of gives it that earthy effect of the myrrh without actually having like a true myrrh note. I feel like if you're looking for something that's a little bit more into that myrrh range, this just sort of teases the line there. It's not really a true myrrh, but it does give that sort of earthy quality to it. And for me, like I said before, there's something here that's cozy that kind of brings it together for me, that draws me in a little bit more. And I feel like it's that base of the tonka bean and the amber. Now, tonka bean, you know, when I consider tonka bean and fragrances, I feel like it's one of those sort of chameleon type of fragrances that, depending on what you pair it with, depending on how you use it, it can take on sort of different tones or different qualities to it. For here, I feel like it's sort of in a slightly vanilla, slightly woodsy, slightly comforting sort of tone to it. And it's really just kind of wrapping this fragrance together. And then you have the amber that adds a little bit of a warmth to it as well. It adds an overall air of sophistication to this fragrance that keeps it from going too playfully sugar plum. It feels really upscale, really cozy. You've definitely got your fruitiness. You've definitely got a little bit of that earthy undertone, but it's very unique to me. Keeping in mind that this is not in my typical wheelhouse. If there are other fragrances like this out there, I just don't know of them. I really don't have anything that I can compare this to for you guys, but it's very unique, you know, and very surprising in that way. And I feel like something that I've noticed over the course of the burn is that I started a little bit more in that fruity realm, and then as we've gotten down into it, you can see I'm more than halfway here. As we've gotten deeper into that candle, a little bit more of that earthy quality to it, that coziness, that comforting aspect here has kind of mingled in more with the fruit. And, you know, it's really been one of those fragrances that has grown on me over the course of the burn. And, you know, the other piece here that we do have to talk about as part of that is the performance. So I mentioned it was very light on cold sniff. It also started very light in the burn. I would say for the first 3 to 4 burns, it was very light. I was burning it just like you see here with no hurricane, just straight on my counter with your average 4 to 5 hour burn time. And, you know, I was getting to the point where I'm like, I feel like this scent has potential, but I'm just not getting it, you know, in itself. So let me try putting it in a hurricane, which I typically don't do when I'm burning for a review, but if I do, I'm always going to let you guys know. So around the midway point or so, maybe a little bit before, I decided to start burning this in a hurricane to see if it made a little bit of a difference. And I really feel like it did. Giving it, I would say, more of that 5 to 6 hour burn time in a hurricane, I was able to get a little bit more heat generated, and it was able to kind of bring the fragrance to life just a little bit more. So still not turning it into a strong fragrance by any means, but going from sort of a lighter intensity with no throw to more of a medium intensity with a little bit of a drift in that room, bringing it a little bit more present in the room in certain areas. I found there was one spot in particular where I was able to get the most out of the performance. It was catching, I think, a little bit of a draft where it was just carrying the scent a little bit more. And, that was the point where I started kind of having a bit of a turn on my feelings. If you had asked me at the beginning if I would ever consider repurchasing it, I would have said no, one and done, not a bad scent, but I'm just not getting much out of it. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, if I try it in a 3-wick and maybe grab some wax melts, the scent itself is nice enough that I might try it again. I'm still on the fence. I'm not giving it my full seal of approval, but I would say if you already picked this up, or if you plan to pick it up, my recommendation would be, I would try for a 3-wick if you can. If you have the 2-wick like you see here, I would say be patient with it. Try to get a good hot burn. If you have a hurricane, I would try using that. I would try playing with your placement a little bit. And, for those who aren't opposed to layering that fragrance up with a wax melt, I would say this is, one of those scents that I would try that for. And I know that's probably an unpopular opinion with a lot of you. If you're buying the candle, you feel like it should be able to do the job in itself, and I don't disagree. I absolutely feel like if you're buying the candle, you should be able to get enough out of it. But I do have instances where, I like the fragrance, and just because it's a little light, I feel like if I've already bought the candle, I don't mind paying a few bucks extra to get those wax melts and kind of strategically placing those in different warmers to kind of boost the overall fragrance if I like it enough. There's some fragrances that are light and it's not doing it for me, and I don't feel like messing with it to that point or investing anymore. But if you have a fragrance that you really do like and you just want a little bit more out of it, that's something that I do. And it's something that I would consider with this one, because I do think it's unique. I do think it's very pretty and enjoyable and very, cozy in a different way than what I'm used to. I'm used to cozy in that, like, your heavy vanillas, your bakery fragrances, things of that nature. But this is cozy in a different way. And I would venture to say almost a little romantic. I can see myself enjoying this in February around Valentine's Day, in a cozy way and sort of slightly feminine, romantic sort of, way. If you have like a smaller bedroom, this might be a really nice scent, especially if you're doing some reading one afternoon. You want something that's there but not overwhelming. This is sort of fitting the bill for that. So, take that information and do with it what you will. Not my full stamp of approval, but, I didn't give it enough credit up front. I kind of wrote it off, and I'm finding that, I had to give this one a little bit more time, and, now I'm enjoying it a little bit more. So that's my take on it. That's, my feelings. And I want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in, checking out this review. I do have some more ready to go, and I'm hoping to kind of squeeze in some time this week to get those recorded. But again, just thank you guys for your time, and I hope to be back really soon with another review.